1-star reviews.
Onward.
Has Pixar dropped a stinker? Add your 1-star review in the comments.
Insanely stupid movie. Onward fundamentally fails on 3 criteria: storytelling, it attempts to provide a heartwarming family tale, but defaults to Disney corporate cynical humor and toilet humor. Additionally, you can literally tell the characters were made for the actors. Not the other way around. Aesthetics, a little bit of the bubbly Pixar dust and what should be a fantasy setting becomes drab. Dominated by blues foremost like a DC movie and uniquely unpleasing characters. Morally, Disney unironically tried to sell a single line as LGBT representation. When we're way past the point of acting like coy schoolgirls about it, I implore you. Use your money more wisely.
Viewers may want to move onward from watching the film. The film here seems like it is missing something. The story is alright. Not super developed, pretty straightforward. The characters don't really grow on the audience much. I was hoping more from this. The film kinda makes the viewer want to move onward from watching the film. A bit boring in my opinion. Don't recommend.
Pointless journey leads to bad Pixar movie. This film has some creativity to it, but the theme of death seems to have the whole film under a gloom. The story is not well developed and the characters in the film just seem to exist in order to learn an important lesson, kind of obvious lesson. The film seems to lack in terms of cinematic experience. This would have been better if released on DVD or Disney+. Too much is lacking here. Don't recommend it.
Disappointed in Pixar. Disney. This movie had no point in ever being made. Disney, Pixar really aren't living up to the name. The movie is plain boring and dull. Awful.
A misfire hot mess that is all the place. Not sure what to say. It did not feel like Pixar. It did not feel like Disney. Not sure where it went wrong in production, but it was all over the place. It had good intentions but the execution. Character design was poor. Ugly and amateur. This is probably the ugliest animated feature to come out in years. The bar has been raised, and for something like this to land in the multiplex under the Pixar brand is just tragic. The end battle with the dragon is just mind-numbingly dull. I would avoid at all cost and by the look of empty theaters this weekend. Most people are.
Stupid. Disney movies have really gone downhill. This movie emphasizes that. It is a senseless comedy.
Disappointing movie, would not watch again. Going into the movie I had high expectations. Overall, I was incredibly disappointed, mostly due to its dull and sleep-inducing storyline. Although mediocre at best. I certainly didn't expect the level of quality here to be on the same line with other movies from Pixar and Disney. If I wanted to torture my worst enemy, I would make them sit through this terrible movie. Don't waste your time by watching it.
Many regrets we spend money on this in cinema. I'm sorry. This is totally horrible. Hyperactivity is about director and his creation. My child, who was many time with me in cinema, was scared of this ugly cartoon creatures. Everything was moving too fast. I felt like I'm gonna vomit. Even 2D. No harmonic or beautiful cute moments in movie. It's pain for ears and eyes. This is fail for director. I don't know why many people likes it. Looks like someone wants to make our children dumb. If you love your kids, don't let them watch this.
The devil is glorified. This movie teaches our children that magic and witchcraft is good. They are in complete violation of the laws and commandments of God.
So boring. Hate to be to spoil this for you, but it is the most boring animation ever. I was so looking forward to this. Very disappointed.
Not appropriate for kids. Parents should move onward from this film. It contains an openly gay character. This goes against my Christian values. There is no need to put that in a kids' movie. That's just wrong. Stop teaching children that this is okay. Let parents discuss these issues with their children. I am disgusted with Pixar. I watched part of it with my kids. But when we say that it included LGBTQ+ agenda, we left the theater. My family will not be watching this anymore.
Onward is a very strange movie. Onward is a very strange movie. The plot also makes very little sense.
Not what I was expecting. I saw the movie yesterday at a pre-release screening. While the animation was very smooth and enchanting as was the voice acting, the story was flat. It's a coming-of-age story that you wanted to have a sweet happy ending. As the movie progressed it became increasingly sad. The whole hauling around the father's legs was a bit much for me. And every time Ian tries to interact with his dad just made me feel more sorry for the character. The brother was an annoying character and was also a bit hard to like. All the other characters in the story were just thrown in with very little depth. To me the ending was just not what I wanted from this movie and I left the theater feeling depressed. Just could have been more wonder in this movie than there was. Too bad as it could have been much better.
Pathetic storyline. This movie is so boring with so much pathetic a storyline. The characters bring nothing new. They are not challenging. They are at best mediocre. And the movie encourages mediocrity. There isn't that Pixar DNA where characters are carefully crafted and they have unique defining characteristics to them. Two brothers, one is a wallflower and the other is practically a 5-year-old who makes weird faces each time he tries to speak. I hate that they bring openly a relationship in a kids' movie. I hate that the mother disrespects their father by having a weird and interesting boyfriend. The storyline brings nothing exciting really. Shame to see the creators of Brave. Big Hero 6. I know it's a Disney movie and Monsters University screw up that hard. I wouldn't recommend this movie for anyone to watch. Kids or adults.
Pretty but boring. This film dragged on for ages. There didn't seem to be music during it and sounded more like an audiobook with tinny voiceover not matching the characters. Was really disappointed as seemed like the
I think learned about urban fantasy and tried to make it as boring as possible. This movie was the least entertaining thing I've seen in a decade.
I fell asleep. I do really love Pixar movies. Especially from WALL-E, Up, Coco, and etc. But this one is boring. I fell asleep almost half of the show.
It's okay. I've heard people compare this to Frozen. But for boys, it's not that good. The dead parent thing has been done to death, pun intended. And I did go in knowing the theme. But it was just a bit boring. Chris Pratt clearly wasn't let loose in the script or acting and was a bit of a disappointment. The visuals are good.
Disappointing. Onward is its own worst enemy really. Having elves and ogres and the like in a modern city setting must have seemed like a good idea. But having characters thinking that magic and fancy spells are lame makes it look like they are. The movie's emotional moments work but it lacks in imagination. Its humor doesn't work and the characters are more annoying than not. The action picks up towards the end but by then I was thinking more about how great previous Pixar efforts were.
Disappointed. I found this a letdown. Wasn't expecting much from the trailers. And I got what I was expecting. Found there to be a lack of humor. There was plenty of heart. But that isn't what I was looking for. I want animated movies to have humor that works for both adults and kids. And didn't find this at all. Pixar are normally a company that produces quality movies. But to me there was something missing.
Ockish but really slow moving. With the cast they had and the concept. I expected it to be more funny and fun. Yet it lingered on and took a long time to get off the ground. Great visuals and animation, lacking in excitement and ultimately coming to a head in seemingly the last 30 minutes with some excitement and laughs.
First 2/3, 1 star plus last 1/3, 8 stars equals 4 stars total. What was this? Diary of a Wimpy Kid meets The Hobbit? Greg Heffley's family loses its dad and moves to the Shire. All the cues are there for us to proclaim this the first great inbreeding of two films. With Moses results. If you're going to borrow from two films then merge them. I guess what you also get is clunky dialogue and predictable jokes. At least for the first 2/3, then the whole rhythm changes. It looks like the scriptwriters' walkout ended and they returned just in time for us to enjoy the last third.
I just didn't care. The characters aren't fleshed out much at all. They're all very bland and stick to one stereotype and don't change much from it. They don't feel human, so I can't relate to them. You throw in the plot and how silly everything felt and it just didn't hit. The humor was so few and far in between and most of it didn't hit for me. It just felt so unoriginal in every way. I wanted to like it but I couldn't. There just wasn't much to like other than a beautiful animation. The voice acting felt very off to me as well. A huge disappointment.
Onward, most like Fullmetal Alchemist. Well, if you guys saw Fullmetal Alchemist, this is a movie that nearby to be the same as FMA. In FMA, two brothers attempt to revive their mother, but fails and both lost some parts of their bodies. So they search for a philosophical stone in order to get their bodies back. On Onward, two brothers attempt to revive their father, but it fails and they lost some parts of their bodies and just have their legs left. So they search for a Felix stone in order to get their bodies back. So, man, it's nearby the same. I'm giving this a 4/10 because at least the comedy and jokes is not that bad. But a really copy plus paste of Fullmetal Alchemist. What happened, Pixar?